I'm just so happy my father had a chance to see his kids before he passed. I just want to say thank you.
When her father fell ill, the American Red Cross was able to help get Veronica's brother home from the Navy to speak to his father one last time. It's thanks to your donations that we can connect military families when they need it most. Please donate today at redcross.org.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement, and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method, and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war, as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
The following letters were written by our troops.
My dear fellow Americans, I truly appreciate your support. I was starting to wonder if people had forgotten about us over here. But then one of my buddies showed me this website, and now as tears are streaming down my face, I can see for sure that you haven't. Private Emily B., U.S. Army.
It's so heartwarming to see the American people not letting the men and women of the armed forces be forgotten. Your letters make a group of grown men, battle-hardened and gruff, act like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree. Thanks. Staff Sergeant Matthew H., U.S. Army.
Your support may be the most important thing our troops can carry with them. But don't take our word for it. Take theirs. To show your support, visit americasupportsyou.mil. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Ad Council.
Millions of Americans every day are shedding unwanted pounds by taking tested and proven Ultra Lipo Stick. Carbohydrates are bad. Our carbo-fighting antioxidant is good. Just listen to these satisfied customers.
My name is Gail, and I lost like 20 pounds on Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Jared, and I lost 46 pounds using Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Zach, and I actually gained weight. This stuff sucks!
Ultra Lipo Stick is safe and easy to inject. Just 3 doses 4 times a day discreetly underneath your fingernail. Listen to this.
I used Ultra Lipo Stick and suffered from side effects like uncontrollable greasy discharge.
Ultra Lipo Stick, it turned the armpits of all of my shirts orange. This stuff is crap.
Try it today and see some real results. Ultra Lipo Stick. Not available in stores. Results may vary.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
most politically incorrect black man on the planet, Rod Eccles.
Well, hello, my fellow Americans. It is I, your lovable host, El Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. It is not big government or bust. And yes, I checked again today. Today being Friday, June the 5th in the year of our Lord 2015, which means it's Free-for-All Friday. So just about anything out there is fair game. But before we get to Free-for-All Friday, I have a special guest with us here today. I know a lot of you probably listened in yesterday, and I thank you for listening in. Colonel West was absolutely amazing. But I have somebody who is now inside one of the campaigns. And we're talking about the GOP presidential campaigns that are out. And, of course, the number just keeps growing, it seems like, every week. And what is it, next week? The week after that, we'll learn if Donald Trump actually jumps in or not. But I'm sure most people really don't care. But today, we're going to be inside the campaign of Senator Cruz, Ted Cruz, who is one of the front runners for the GOP nomination. We have one of his finance committee committeemen, Neil Shanker Maratra, here with us this evening. Welcome to the show, Neil. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, Rod. I heard your program with Alan West last night, and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening. Now, you are basically, you're right next to Senator Cruz quite often, being one of the people that has to help him deal with the finances and go through all the rules and regulations that come along with financing and spending the money for a major campaign like this. And you decided that you wanted to be a part of the Cruz campaign because you like Ted Cruz, obviously, right?
Yes, sir. I think that would be the understatement of the century. Ted Cruz is my personal hero, and to the extent that he's motivated my decision-making, I have turned down Harvard Law School to attend the University of Texas Law School because I want to be closer to the campaign headquarters and help him become president. I truly believe that patriots like Senator Cruz only come along once every lifetime, and we have the opportunity of a lifetime right now to restore American exceptionalism by electing him.
Now, I know this is kind of a different campaign season because which is kind of unusual for the GOP, that there are quite a few, not just one or two, but quite a few very strong contenders on the GOP ticket that could possibly end up with the nomination and end up in the White House in 2016. Now, I personally believe that it almost doesn't matter who the GOP nominee is going to be, because whoever that is, they're going to be the next president of the United States. So I think one of the things is that Senator Cruz has to do, without getting in the mud, and so far all the candidates have done a wonderful job of not slinging mud at each other. I love that fact. I hope they keep it that way. But it is becoming a crowded field. So how is Senator Cruz keeping his head above water with the now we got Rick Perry that jumped in, a fellow Texan?
Well, I think that Senator Cruz, and I was asked this question another day, what is Senator Cruz's campaign strategy? And I said, well, he doesn't have a strategy. His strategy is to be Ted Cruz. You don't need any gimmicks beyond that, because what he stands for is so exceptional that I think that the challenge is going to be communicating that message in a fair manner directly to the American people. Because I'm confident that once they hear that message, which will restore respect for rule of law, abide by constitutional fidelity, will encourage spending responsibly so that the country can live within our means, and really defend every single one of our constitutional rights equally. When they hear this straight from the proverbial horse's mouth from Senator Cruz, I think they're going to like what they hear. And I think that actually, to your point of a clustered and crowded field, I think that greatly advantages Senator Cruz. And the reason is because in a crowded field with no presumptive man to beat, like Jeb Bush was presumed to be by some, Senator Cruz has a greater chance of standing out after the primary debates and really distinguishing himself more than if there was one front runner with all the money. And I think that it's healthy. I think it's healthy for the GOP to have such a strong, formidable field of contenders. And every time you see a new candidate announced, Senator Cruz does the same thing, which is he says, when Rand Paul announced, he said this for the first time. He said, "I'm pleased to welcome my friend and fellow patriot, and I look forward to this campaign." And he'll elevate the level of debate so that whoever gets nominated is better equipped to beat Hillary Clinton. And I think that's a good thing, because what you saw in 2012 was you saw Mitt Romney with no one really to challenge him with a compelling candidacy. And that's why there was a running joke that you should say, meh, Mitt Romney. And I think that, to Senator Cruz's point about that, 4 million evangelicals and Christians stayed home in the last election because they were sick of holding their noses and voting for like a Bob Dole, Mitt Romney brand of candidate. And you can't out-Democrat a Democrat. That's not the winning strategy in this case. The winning strategy is twofold. It's number one, is first of all, don't be divisive from the start. So where do I start? I start by getting Hillary Clinton voters to support Ted Cruz. Now, I know that may sound like an audacious goal, but it's possible, and I've done it. And the way to do that, I think, is to stress the fact that no other candidate in the field has his level of sophisticated understanding of the Constitution, as proven by a track record. And almost every single issue that we could discuss today on the program with you, whether it be the NSA filibuster from Senator Paul, or whether it be what's going on with Obamacare, or whether it be what's going on with gay marriage, everything is revolving around the Constitution right now. And the reason for that is we've come so far away from the document, from interpretations of interpretations of interpretations. And we've been following precedents in this area, getting away from the Constitution for so long that it's time to get back there. And stressing that to a Hillary Clinton supporter, you do it in the following way. You don't do it in a partisan way. You say under President Bush, under President Obama, there is no doubt that it is a bipartisan endeavor to supersede executive authority and undermine rule of law by exceeding the separation of powers that our Constitution holds. And whether or not you agree with Senator Cruz on a particular policy
type of person, though. I mean, she's not a constitutional scholar. She's, then again, Obama is a Constitution scholar. The man does know the Constitution, and that was what made him so dangerous. But do you think that a Clinton voter or Clinton supporter is really interested in supporting the Constitution? And many of them think that the Constitution is kind of in the way and outdated, and it was for another time, not today.
Well, so the first point about what you said about President Obama, that is an important point to bring up, because you can study the Constitution to circumvent it, or you can study the Constitution to uphold it. It's a tool, the study of it. But Ted Cruz not only has a love for the Constitution, but an understanding. He was writing his senior undergraduate thesis at Princeton before he even went to law school. It is so sophisticated that it looks like maybe it's a law review article from a professor. And this is before he spent a day in law school. And yes, I do think that Hillary Clinton supporters will care about the Constitution. It's our job to deliver the message in a compelling way so that they will. And you just have to show them that if you get away from, so this goes back to the point of it's not about policy. It's about being honest with yourself about, and Senator Cruz is honest, about whether he disagrees with something because he doesn't think it's a good idea, in other words, policy, or whether something is unconstitutional. And I think that's what you've seen with Senator Paul, is he's kind of he's politicizing propaganda about constitutional populism to raise money. And Senator Cruz doesn't do that. And so what I've seen actually from a lot of Hillary Clinton supporters, and actually, received an email from someone the other day who made a donation. I've gotten some Hillary Clinton supporters to donate. They said, I don't necessarily always agree with Ted Cruz, but he always stands on the principle, and that principle is always unwavering. It's consistent. It's the Constitution is the touchstone for every question. And so what you have to show the Hillary Clinton supporters is, look, you may think that, gay marriage, for example, is a good idea. You may think that gays ought to have the right to marry, and there's nothing inherent about, marriage, and that may be your position, your point of view. But how does Senator Cruz answer the question? He answers the question by saying, well, what is the operative legal question in this case? The operative legal question is this, equal protection clause argument, is that going to trump federalism in this case, or is federalism going to trump? And then he compellingly explains why. So the idea being, if you elect this man, he's the only one that you can be assured that's not going to use his personal political beliefs to circumvent the Constitution. Because Senator Cruz, until a year and a half ago, his life, from early childhood, and based on his father fleeing Cuba from an early age, and the precious price he almost paid with his life, fighting for liberty, places the greatest value on constitutional fidelity. And he was the youngest ever Solicitor General in United States history at age 32 when he argued in front of the Supreme Court, has argued more cases in front of the Supreme Court than any other member of Congress. And that understanding of the Constitution and duty to be loyal to it is why you should vote for Ted Cruz. Now I'll give you an example of two things that seem inconsistent but are not when you view it through Ted Cruz not doing what's good for Ted Cruz, but being honest to the Constitution. So Senator Cruz was very vocal when he first got to the Senate. He said, I'm not here to make 99 new friends. I'm here to represent the people, not the Washington insiders. So what did he do? He introduced a term limits proposition, and in an amendment, actually. And he wanted to have lifetime lobbying bans after you serve in Congress. Now, this seems like a very good idea to 95 or 98% of people outside the two parties. Just like living within our means and not spending our children's money seems like a very good idea. And so when you actually boil down what Senator Cruz's positions are, they're number one, abiding by the Constitution. Number two, living within our means. Number three, putting America on the world stage as a power that asserts itself when it's necessary to self-defense, but not to build democratic utopias in other states. So you saw the Republican contenders get the question about the Iraq War. Jeb Bush fumbled it for about a week. Marco Rubio stumbled and changed his answer. Ted Cruz said, absolutely not, I wouldn't have gotten into Iraq knowing what we know today. That's a gimme. It was predicated on a premise of intelligence that didn't hold up. So he's clear and he communicates in this compelling manner. And I think that when you really look at what he stands for, which is constitutional rights, living within our means, these are things that are going to unite everyone, libertarians, Democrats, Republicans. I think that his greatest challenge for Senator Cruz is going to be going directly to the people. And I think that in the age of social media, with such an active army of grassroots supporters,
people
the most
currently
vocal
involved are currently running. So, yeah, I mean, don't you think that his message might get a little watered down? Or I mean, we just had the 10th person jump in today, Rick Perry. So that's a very large. This is the largest field I can remember in my lifetime, and a good number of them, are potential front runners. I mean, I don't get me wrong. Senator Cruz is a very well-spoken man, but we also have to understand that our press is the lamestream media, and they always try to do what's best for the Democratic Party. They're a mouthpiece for them. So often they don't let the Republicans, no matter who they are, fully be heard out there. So I was just kind of wondering, how is Senator Cruz, and I have a follow-up question. How is Senator Cruz going to get himself, keep his head above the fray or the waters to be heard when there's a field of candidates of 10, and the lamestream media just doesn't like to cover Republicans?
Sure. So first, speaking to your point, thanks for having me on your show, because that's why it's so vital, is for me to be able to get this message out to all of your listeners, so the message doesn't get watered down. So that's precisely what I hope to do today. But the second thing is that I think that Senator Cruz has a lot of things going for him that other candidates don't. And I think that history repeats itself a lot, and history is a great teacher in this case. So, and by the way, the last time I spoke with Senator Cruz, I just asked him the exact same question that you asked me, more or less worded slightly differently, and his response was as follows, pretty much. He said, look, in 1978, do you know what everyone was saying about Ronald Reagan? They were saying kamikaze cost. Do you know what headline they used, New York Times, for Senator Cruz? Some 20-odd years later. The exact same headline. So the Reagan was viewed the exact same way by many people as Senator Cruz is. And we've seen that worked. Why? Because, number one, Ronald Reagan had a disarming sense of humor and charm. Okay, and this goes to communicating with people. Senator Cruz has the same sense of disarming humor and charm. When I asked him this question, he smiled, and he goes, the media has this caricature of Republicans' tradition. We're either stupid or we're evil. And, I'm kind of flattered because they came up with a third one for me, and that's that I'm a wacko bird. They're so scared that they're calling me crazy. And he said, I forgot, he chuckled and he said, I forgot the dynamite strapped to my chest in the car. And then he answered the question by saying, look, I'm going to go directly to the voters just like Reagan did. And that's why these debates are going to be so important, because in a crowded field, like you said, with so many people, what's going to really move people? You see polls here and there, but there is no really front runner right now. That's pretty much accepted.
We still have other people that are going to be jumping in, but here's another problem for Senator Cruz, and that's the fact that he's a senator. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
I actually don't think, Rod. I think I would say the opposite, and I'll let you finish, but then I'll explain why.
And we know that throughout history of our country that some of the better presidents have been governors or military men or both, but we have 4 current senators running right now. In Cruz, Paul, Rubio, and Graham, and we have a few former governors in the race. So considering that people are kind of wary of the senator that is now occupying the White House and having a Democratic front runner on the Democratic side, well, there's 2 of them actually that are senators, Senator Clinton, Secretary of State, and Senator Sanders. I mean, do you think that might pull him back a little bit, that he's got that legacy of being a senator and not a governor and not a military general and not a CEO of a big corporation?
Absolutely not. And here's why I say that unequivocally. Because one thing that we've seen as far as the military general goes, I think that military experience is definitely a positive. I don't think it's necessary. And I think that when you do talk about military leaders, you look at Dwight Eisenhower, who went straight from the ground to the presidency, but he basically won us World War II. So you have one candidate, at least amongst this crowded field that you're talking about, Dr. Carson, who I just don't believe is going to be able to make any traction in this election because of that complete lack of experience in government which, as we've seen from the dysfunction junction of Washington, is vital. You need to understand what cloture means. You need to understand all the nuances. You need to understand the Constitution, and so that's important. But I think that the senator is a better advantage. And then I'll finish by saying, and the reason for that, the reason that it's an advantage in this case, number one, foreign policy. Governors don't deal with foreign policy. The world is in flames right now, as Senator Cruz said. And so you need somebody who understands foreign policy, and senators deal with foreign policy, but governors do not. And the conventional wisdom, is that you need executive experience. But I don't think that's true. I think what you need is commitment to America and the Constitution. And I think that when you need an inspiring constitutional conservative, above all, and I'm going to break a record for how many times I say Constitution, but the third thing is you need somebody who understands the Constitution. And I want to get at some point to discussing Rand Paul in the program and what his problem with the Fourth Amendment is and the Constitution on this NSA, this filibuster that he took on. But that comes from being in the Senate as well. If you're not an attorney, but you're in the Senate, you're going to deal with these issues, constitutional law issues, because you're going to deal with the balance of power between federal and state government. And not only that, but between the different branches of government. If you're a governor, you're running your individual state, but you don't have your eye on that. And I think that actually today, a senator has the edge. So I think that two out of the top three, my personal top three, are Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and Scott Walker at this point, not Jeb Bush. And only one of them is governor. So, and then also, it's kind of a meaningless distinction, right? Because Sarah Palin, as we all saw, was governor of Alaska, a low population, high energy state, and she didn't know a thing about foreign policy. And we saw that come out when she was questioned. So these are kind of, these are titles that don't actually matter that much in making the decision. It's going to come down to the candidate and how the voters receive that candidate's message. That's going to be it. Now, the last thing I'd like to say about this is you may be referring to the fact that Senator Obama then became President Obama. And so voters have some fatigue with this idea of a freshman senator. But Senator Obama could not have been further from Senator Cruz, because Senator Obama, when you look at his career, it's about what you've done in your life. So that's why Carly Fiorina is running for president, because she's ran something big. That was your point, some experience. Senator Cruz became the youngest ever Solicitor General in the state of Texas. I can't think of something that qualifies you in today's day and age to be president more. And what qualifies you most to be president at each day and age and each era is going to be different. It's absolutely going to be different based on what the times call for. What the times call for now is a constitutional conservative who's going to reignite the miracle of America and restore the optimism. And how do you do that? It's very simple. And Ted Cruz is not, he's cast as an iconoclast, but his vision is daring and simple. And that's only because we've gotten so used to the mold that we can't see that. Many people can't see that. But when Senator Cruz communicates that to people, they will see that. For example, I'll give you an example. 60-some% of the American people were against Obamacare. Almost 90% of them, regardless of party, would say we need to spend less money. We can't keep spending this much money in our budgets. And that comes to Senator Cruz's point. Well, how are you going to do this? So how's he going to do it is he's going to abolish the IRS and institute a flat tax. And that's going to be a revenue positive thing that's going to happen. And it's going to close all the loopholes, which gives lobbyists all of these jobs and this influence and corrupt influence in the way government is run. I mean, I don't see a reason that you should be able to write off $10,000 of or $8,000, I think it is, of gambling losses. And these laws change so much every year that there were 270-some changes last year. So this is ridiculous. And Senator Cruz has said that. But Senator Rubio, what is he saying about this issue? He has, a hawkish foreign policy view, and he's articulated, many, many tax cuts, and he wants amnesty, and so does Jeb Bush, including also in-state tuition for the children of illegal immigrants. How do you pay for all of that? Well, you add more to the debt. So when I encountered Jeb Bush at CPAC, and I asked him this, and he dodged my question And his answer was kind of.
We're going to get into more about what Ted Cruz thinks about the IRS right after the break. We'll be right back, folks.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. Call InventHelp today.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-352-1609. That's 1-800-352-1609.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month, and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up, with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
You're listening to The Rod Eccles Show.
Our conversation here. I'm speaking with Neil Shankar Mehrotra, Finance Committee man for sitting Senator Ted Cruz, who is running for president. And we mentioned before break about taxes. Now we hear a lot of presidents and a lot of people running for national office in the House and in the Senate talking about the need for changing the IRS and the status quo. And we've seen in the current administration especially, how the IRS has been used to bully the American people into thinking or trying to be forced to think in one direction or another. And there have been a number of people who've called for the IRS's abolition over the years. I mean, Rand Paul's father, Ron Paul, was a big advocate of getting rid of them. There have been a number of governors that have called for the end of the IRS and things like that. But it never comes about. In fact, what we end up getting is an even more complicated tax system. And so I don't know how the president can actually determine whether or not we keep the IRS. How does a President Cruz, deal with the IRS?
Well, first, let me say that whenever somebody has a different vision and the status quo has gotten a certain way, they're hailed as someone who is starting to advocate for ideas that are not feasible. And the way Senator Cruz says, imagine this. Imagine a president who stands for Israel. Imagine a president who abides by the Constitution. He's a visionary. There's no doubt about that. So Senator Cruz is not somebody who's, guided by shallow perceptions. He's got strong principles, and he's not trying to build consensus. He's trying to shape consensus. So he has a vision, and he's articulating that vision in a compelling way. And why is it feasible for this to happen? Because look at the common sense argument behind why there should not be an IRS. Look at the fact that if you talk to the people, this is the point that I was referring to earlier about how Senator Cruz's positions resonate with the American people, and that's why he'll be elected. So amongst Washington insiders, right, the IRS, it hasn't succeeded, it's not politically popular, but there's plenty of things like that. Amnesty is not popular with the American people, but it's popular in Washington, D.C. Obamacare is popular in Washington, D.C. It's not popular amongst the American people. And the IRS is really no different in this case because somebody hasn't succeeded in tackling the IRS because they haven't advocated for it in a compelling manner. And Senator Cruz, a two-time national debate champion and somebody who's very well versed in the constitutional parameters of the non-delegation doctrine, which I believe he would like to see non-delegation doctrine revitalized a little bit, just like, affirmative limits on federal power on the Commerce Clause. These things seem crazy to us because we've been going in the wrong direction for a while. And then when it corrects, the fact that we were in this place that we are now will seem crazy once we get right on the right path. So as a president, he's going to articulate a vision for the IRS, and the president does have the ability to shape consensus. Now, if you want to look at Senator Cruz's ability to influence what goes on, even in this dysfunctional Congress, he's at oftentimes, much to the dismay of Mitch McConnell, when the establishment has tried to really jam through amnesty, Senator Cruz will almost act as a majority whip in the House. And there was actually an article about that. It was a little bit derisive, but it made a compelling point, which is that Senator Cruz has a whole lot of influence, and he's a very effective communicator. And you combine that with the vision that resonates with, I would say, 80% of the American people, the flat tax, then it's feasible to do that. And again, I think that this is what makes him so different from the other candidates, is the fact that he is a bold visionary. And he's not content with barely tweaking the status quo. So if you look at Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton, in many ways, it's really a false dichotomy on the ballot there. It's a distinction without a difference. And both of them are interested in what is feasible in Washington right now and how can I get elected. And neither one of them is interested in what do American people actually want right now and what's the political risk there. And we have a president right now who's been fundraiser in chief and, poller in chief. I just coined that term, but he's always gauging, what different people, what Washington thinks. And so he doesn't have a depth of principle. So I don't think we should be asking ourselves, how has somebody succeeded so far? Because whenever you have an idea that's a vision, and it's a bold vision because it's a break from the status quo, which is what we need. We need a break from the status quo. More of the same is not going to be good. Then people question that vision. And I go back to Dr. Martin Luther King here. And I compare Senator Cruz to Dr. Martin Luther King in one very important way, which is Lyndon B. Johnson and Martin Luther King had a conversation, and Lyndon Johnson was saying, not right now, this voting thing, it can wait a little while. And Martin Luther King didn't believe that. He said, no, it can't, because the time is always right to do what is right. And that is what sets Senator Cruz apart. And that is going to resonate with the American people. Now once Senator Cruz goes and communicates that message to the American people directly, and they elect him, they're likely going to elect some new people in Congress along with him.
You mentioned earlier about the national scene and how Senator Cruz has international experience. He's got foreign policy experience in dealing with that kind of thing because, senators, especially depending on the committee that they may be serving on, really do have their finger on the pulse as far as what's going on in the world. And I'm sure you've heard by now that the current president said earlier this week that we are now the most respected nation on the planet again. I don't know where he's getting that from. But and you also said that Cruz was talking about when he was asked that really stupid lamestream media question about knowing what we know now, would you still go into Iraq? Well, now that we see what's happening going on in the Middle East is on fire. Everybody understands that that isn't a total nut job. Fully understands that the Middle East is on fire, and that the Middle East is a key point to the entire planet. That what happens in the Middle East has the potential to draw the entire world into another world war. And this whole notion of not standing with Israel or standing with Israel, and we can see that now, countries like Saudi Arabia and Egypt are kind of standing with Israel against Iran. How would Senator Cruz deal with that hot spot? I mean, there's no place on the planet that's hotter right now. And, if you want to talk about World War II and how that got started, we're kind of seeing a repeat. So is it time to really have as a former president once said, speak softly but carry a big stick? Or is it time to just sort of cut our losses and leave that area alone and only just support Israel?
Can you repeat the last part of the question?
Would it all right, I'll simplify it. Would it be better? Does Senator Cruz think, if he was President Cruz, that it would be better to basically just sort of abandon, just try to contain the fire and stand with Israel, support Israel so nobody attacks Israel, but just let them fight it out themselves? Is that a better way to go? Because it seems to be what Obama's policy is at the moment, without standing for Israel.
So Senator Cruz stands with Israel, and it's in line with his belief that the time is always right to do what is right. And in his view, Hamas was wrong. And when you have countries that elect majorities, and their constitutions say, or their charters say, we want to wipe a country off the face of the earth, and that country is our ally, we stand with them. It's very simple. But in terms of the overall, do we stand with Israel or do we let them fight it out amongst themselves? I think that there's a couple things there. One is that Ted Cruz likes to refer to himself as the third point on the triangle in terms of foreign policy. And I like the term that I would use, and I don't know if this term exists at all, but I would say realistic neoconservative. In other words, not neoconservative. And by the way, this is something that my Hillary Clinton friend told me that she really admired about Senator Cruz, because he's not going to this notion of isolationism in any way, but he's not going to the direction of let's go and build democracies all across the Middle East. Senator Cruz's position is extremely simple. We stand with our allies when those allies are on the right side, and we protect American interests. And so when it's necessary to American interests, we intervene. When it's not, we don't. Now, as far as it being a hotbed now, yes, I think knowing what we know now, the premise of that war was false. So the premise that President Bush went to Iraq with was weapons of mass destruction. When that premise falls, the conclusion falls. It's logic. Now, as far as the complications that will arise in the Middle East, because we stand with Israel, I would say the world is on fire, and the United States should no longer, going to your point, your quote from President Roosevelt, speak softly and carry a big stick. That won't work today. The big stick diplomacy is not going to work today because, number one, contrary and contradicting what President Obama says, America has never been a less respected country in the world. You have to have some existing respect and be the world superpower to carry that big stick. We're not in a time of imperialism now. We're in a time of chaos where nuclear weapons are a great equalizer. And nuclear weapons, when you combine that on some fronts with irrational actors, as Senator Cruz likes to say, rational strategies don't often work because a lot of people in the Middle East are not driven by rational factors. They're driven by madness. In other words, they would be okay with mutually assured destruction. That is not a bad outcome in their book because then they're martyrs. Now, one of the reasons that North Korea has been easier to control is because Kim Jong-un, for all his big talk, which he seeks to retain power and curry influence in North Korea and make sure he gets respect from the people, he is a rational actor. But the folks in Iran, Rouhani, not a rational actor. And as Prime Minister Netanyahu said, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. And so we cannot be signing agreements with Iran, especially when we're not subjecting it to congressional approval, not calling it a treaty, and so that Senate doesn't have to vote on it. That's wrong. And that speaks to another trend that we've seen from President Obama when he spoke to the point about respect in the world, is that he has consistently taken the route of renaming things in order to circumvent the Constitution. So he did this with the Senate recess. Senate's in recess, so I can put these appointments in last year. And the Supreme Court overruled him on a 9-0 margin. And this is why I'm saying rule of law is so important. I'll keep coming back to this point. Because with the Patriot Act, which, as we heard, the courts have spoken on that, on Section 215 of that, with the IRS targeting people, with people currying influence by soliciting donations for their foundations, with Obama using executive orders to not enforce the law as written, and then the Republicans agreeing to nominate an attorney general who says, I will not enforce the immigration policies as written. We have a serious problem. And you add to that we have the Supreme Court, which is one death away from a radical liberal majority, that the problem is going to become that rule of law is going to be completely eradicated. So if you don't have Senator Cruz now, and this is getting off topic from your original question, then it'll never happen. This is that breaking point. Because if you get so far away from the Constitution that you don't even remember what it originally was, as many people don't, but Senator Cruz does because he's an expert in the area, then you understand how critical this is and how dangerous this is to our republic. This is why we have 3 branches of government, and it's become really 4 because the bureaucracy runs everything. And Senator Cruz wants to bring certain things back. Once upon a time, we had a non-delegation doctrine, where we were not letting unelected bureaucrats decide outcomes. Because again, what do people want? Do people want unelected bureaucrats to decide things for our lives? No. And this is again a point that no other candidate is doing anything about that and saying we need to restructure the way our government is, like abolish the IRS in a sensible manner. Now, Rand Paul has taken this off to an extreme because Rand Paul claims to be a constitutional conservative, but alas, he does not understand the implications of what he's saying about the Constitution. And this filibuster that he just had is nothing but politics. It's putting partisan politics above constitutional populism. And the reason that I say that is very simple. Because what the Supreme Court has basically said is that Section 215 of the Patriot Act is cannot be done. And what does Section 215 of the Patriot Act say? It deals with collecting metadata. The NSA is taking people's phone numbers and financial records, and they're storing them in these warehouses. Now, I think about 100% of people in this country agree that that's wrong, and most people, even those who aren't attorneys, understand that that's a violation of our Fourth Amendment rights. But we can't just say Fourth Amendment and throw it out there and then expect that to generate a result, which is to oversimplify it. You do have a president, and a president swears that his oath by office is to protect the interests of and security of the American people. That's his job. Now, if you want to talk about power of the Constitution,
you know, if we're looking at Cruz here and Rubio. Now, they have something in common. They're both Latino, Cuban Americans, and this is the first time that that's happened in American history. So now we're seeing Republicans kind of breaking the old white boy, club mold. But earlier in the program, you were talking about how Rubio was for a form of amnesty. Now, what exactly? Because our borders are still wide open, and ISIS has told us that they have operatives in at least 15 states. We do know that there was a Middle Eastern terrorist, Muslim terrorist camp in Mexico, about 8 miles from the border with the U.S. How does Cruz feel? I mean, he's Latino, so how does he feel about shutting down the border on these people?
Okay, if I may, I'd like to just briefly wrap up that point on Senator Paul, and then I will definitely answer your question directly. I was just getting to the point there where I was saying the reason that I say constitutional conservative and that holds some meaning and some weight with me is because what Senator Paul has done over the last week and having this filibuster is going back to 2014. So if Senator Paul had voted and been that 50th vote for cloture, then the USA Freedom Act would have prevailed, and we wouldn't have the position we're in. So what does this issue really come down to is everyone agrees, and the Supreme Court has said this section of the Patriot Act is unconstitutional. They recognize that separation of powers means that they cannot use an injunction, in other words, stopping something as a remedy, because that power belongs to Congress. They can't grant an injunction because Congress has to go back and change Congress's legislation. It's not for the Supreme Court to interpret the legislative intent of something Congress does. That's always been the way it's been, and as per our constitutional structure. Now, so what he's basically allowing is before. So Rand Paul doesn't want to embrace this USA Freedom Act, which is taking half a loaf, if he believes that this is not the right solution, to replace an unconstitutional provision with a constitutional one, something that the Supreme Court has said is constitutional. So what did they say is unconstitutional? This particular section of the Patriot Act. What did they say to do about it? Well, they said, we can't do anything. Congress has to fix it. We recommend the USA Freedom Act. That is constitutional because you can't just bulk store people's data nor collect their financial records without a warrant. And Senator Paul instead quibbles with the way metadata was gathered that way. So he doesn't want you to be able to gather the data as much as they can. He wants you to have each individual warrant for each person to gather that data. So besides being very expensive and time-consuming, it doesn't strike that proper balance between protecting people and our freedoms guaranteed by Fourth Amendment, which are very important. But it's also blatantly dishonest to what he's saying. What he's saying is he's taking that Supreme Court decision. He's saying, look, they were against the Patriot Act. Supreme Court has said this is unconstitutional. We must go further. Except he completely ignored the part where the Supreme Court said, yes, but this part is constitutional. What does Congress have a duty to do first? Not let the Patriot Act continue. Not let the NSA fine continue. So Rand Paul, by not going for this idea, what he's effectively done is gone back to the time, what he is advocating is going back to the time previous to 1972 when we started to rein in our intelligence agencies. What happened then? Well, from 1948 to 1972, what were intelligence agencies doing? They were doing warrantless wiretap by executive orders. So Rand Paul doesn't have an alternative here. He's complaining, and this is where he inherits the problems of his father. Ron Paul was famous for saying, we should be on a gold standard. We should do this. We should do this. And then people ask him how, and he never had an answer. Never. And that's not similar to, how would you change a policy? He's just railing on this policy. He doesn't have an alternative, and he's misrepresenting what the Supreme Court said to raise money. And he's filibustering on this to raise money, and it's pure populism. It's pure politics, partisan politics. And so I believe that that's dishonest to a level, because Senator Cruz, regardless of his intent, and this goes back to the point about his constitutional conservative roots, when he has policy, Ted Cruz is obviously a populist from everything I've said so far. So why does somebody who's a populist support Citizens United? What is Citizens United? It's the campaign contribution limit. That's freedom of speech. Because Senator Cruz supports that. Why? Because he believes that it's protected by the First Amendment. And it doesn't matter if he thinks billionaires should be able to donate as much money as they want to super PACs. It's what the Constitution says. And if you actually look at his support for Citizens United and his advocacy for term limits and congressional lifetime bans on lobbying after service, they seem inconsistent. But that's because Senator Cruz is putting the Constitution as a touchstone of all policy. And now to quickly come back to your actual question here, is that Senator Cruz, and this brings up one of the points that I like most about him, has the only sensible immigration policy amongst the entire field. And let me say on 2 points. First, Senator Cruz is the son of an immigrant. He embraces the role and champions the role of legal immigrants in welcoming them to the beacon of freedom that America is, the melting pot, and creating economic opportunity. He recognizes that there are a shortage of highly skilled workers in certain areas, like medicine, and that's how a lot of the Indian Americans came over, and engineers and computer scientists who are responsible for building a lot of the Silicon Valley itself. And what they do is they have small businesses, including my own uncle and folks in my family, and they employ people. And they're law-abiding citizens, and these people, a lot of them have master's degrees. So what did he do? He wants to quintuple the number of H-1B1 visas and abolish country-specific quotas on legal immigration. So we as the United States, we have the sovereign power to welcome the very best and most capable immigrants to be part of the best country in the world. So we should have no requirement to take X number from Pakistan. We should be able to take people from any country and however many of those people we want. So that's what Senator Cruz stands on legal immigration, where he's the greatest champion for legal immigration in the entire Senate. So there's no question he's for immigration. Now we get to the second point about closing the border. And closing the border is a matter of common sense, because we need to secure the border, number one, for national security reasons, number two, for the debt reason, because over time heritage projections show it added $6.3 trillion to our debt, number three, for fairness reasons, because when you have legal immigrants waiting in line and who are law-abiding citizens, and the INS stretches its resource to accommodate this mess at the border we have, that disadvantages legal immigrants. That's fundamentally unfair to those who have waited in line and waited their turn. And number four, it undermines rule of law. So Senator Cruz, I think, one time said that illegal immigration increased 92% in 1 year because Obama was basically sending the message, come and I'll let you in. And people heard that message, and they started coming across the border more freely. So we need to send the message to the world that we are a country of immigrants, but we want you to come legally. And if you come illegally, then we cannot grant you amnesty, because what we're doing is completely undermining the rule of law. Exactly. Senator Cruz is a very smart man. He knows that the demographics in the Republican Party, or the demographics in the country, and that how they're shifting. He knows it would be politically favorable to him, but he won't do it because he knows it's wrong.
We're coming to the end of our time here. How can people help you support Ted Cruz and do whatever that they need to do to help support Ted Cruz?
Rod, I will be sharing a link on my Facebook page for how to donate, how to volunteer, and things that they should be looking out for. And I'll leave this tantalizing bit at the end, which is that there'll be a new technology employed, which the grassroots should be very excited about, because it's going to allow people to engage in their communities and whatever parts of the country they are in a way that's never been seen before.
All right, that's well, I appreciate your take on the beliefs of Mr. Cruz, Senator Cruz, and it has been a pleasure speaking to you, Neil. And I hope that we get a chance to actually talk again shortly, and hopefully, who knows, maybe we'll get a chance to actually meet in person as the political process for 2016 really starts to heat up. Thanks for being here, Neil. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely, Rod. Thank you very much for having me, and have a great night.
Bye-bye. And just take a look at his site, and we'll try to get some information up on the website as well if you want to know more about Ted Cruz. Until then, we'll be right back, folks.
I'm just so happy my father had a chance to see his kids before he passed. I just want to say thank you.
When her father fell ill, the American Red Cross was able to help get Veronica's brother home from the Navy to speak to his father one last time. It's thanks to your donations that we can connect military families when they need it most. Please donate today at redcross.org.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please, call or go online right now.
The following letters were written by our troops.
My dear fellow Americans, I truly appreciate your support. I was starting to wonder if people had forgotten about us over here. But then one of my buddies showed me this website, and now as tears are streaming down my face, I can see for sure that you haven't. Private Emily B., U.S. Army.
It's so heartwarming to see the American people not letting the men and women of the armed forces be forgotten. Your letters make a group of grown men, battle-hardened and gruff, act like a bunch of kids around a Christmas tree. Thanks. Staff Sergeant Matthew H., U.S. Army.
Your support may be the most important thing our troops can carry with them. But don't take our word for it. Take theirs. To show your support, visit americasupportsyou.mil. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Ad Council.
Millions of Americans every day are shedding unwanted pounds by taking tested and proven Ultra Lipo Stick. Carbohydrates are bad. Our carbo-fighting antioxidant is good. Just listen to these satisfied customers.
My name is Gail, and I lost like 20 pounds on Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Jared, and I lost 46 pounds using Ultra Lipo Stick.
My name is Zach, and I actually gained weight. This stuff sucks!
Ultra Lipo Stick is safe and easy to inject. Just 3 doses 4 times a day discreetly underneath your fingernail. Listen to this.
I used Ultra Lipo Stick and suffered from side effects like uncontrollable greasy discharge.
Ultra Lipo Stick, it turned the armpits of all of my shirts orange. This stuff is crap.
Try it today and see some real results. Ultra Lipo Stick. Not available in stores. Results may vary.
Zinc Media. Feel the power of knowledge.
Most politically incorrect black man on the planet, Rod Eccles.
Well, hello, my fellow Americans. We are back. I am still your lovable host, El Rod, coming to you live from my bunkerized home studio somewhere within the great granite state of New Hampshire, where the state motto is still live free or die. It is not big government or bust. At least not yet, anyway. It is Friday, June the 5th in the year of our Lord 2015, which means we're coming to the end of the week, and we begin our weekend. It is a free-for-all Friday. If there's something wacky or cool on your mind that has to do with politics and the Constitution and things like that, give me a call at 603-835-3224. Just want to thank our guest, Neil, again, for taking the time out to be here and answer some questions about Senator Cruz, who is a candidate for president here in the United States for the 2016 election. Some interesting things that I learned a couple of things about Senator Cruz. So, and we'll keep doing these. Now understand one thing, folks. I just want to make this perfectly clear that at this juncture, I'm not endorsing any candidate. And the reason is pretty simple. The reason is that not everyone who is going to be getting, well, let me just put it this way. It's too soon for me. It's too soon for me to make up my mind and make my decision of who I want to see to win the nomination. So I got time, and if you have not made up your mind, don't feel pressured that you have to make up your mind. Just listen to people, listen to the candidates, listen to their supporters, see what these people are all about, and that's part of the reason why Neil was here on this program. And hopefully we'll be able to be in touch with people from other camps as well. Maybe get some insights that we don't get a lot of from the lamestream media on the various different candidates. Who knows? You may he might have something there going after Hillary Clinton supporters. Ronald Reagan was a great uniter and communicator. And you know, we still refer to some of those people that voted for Reagan as Reagan Democrats. So who knows, you know, maybe there could be some Democrats that cross party lines for 2016. You never know. And might I add that since it is Friday, you know, I got to tell you, I am what has been going on behind the scenes here at the Rod Eccles Show. You guys just you do not fully understand the craziness that is happening here, and it's a good craziness. I will say that it is a fantastic. I am. Rush often says having more fun than a human being ought to have. And I guess before, I never really fully understood what he meant by that. But now that I'm in the throes of it, I got to tell you, I'm going to steal his line. I'm having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have, because this is a ball. I'm having a ball doing this, and watching this program just sort of grow by leaps and bounds, and getting the traction that it is getting, and people are. Can I tell you something? I want to share something with you, and this is coming from the bottom of my heart. I got to thank all of you out there. I really do, because you know I have always been told that I've had a gift of gab, if you will, and that I was very good at the written word. Writing. Now, I never took any of that stuff seriously until until my articles, my posts started to be syndicated. And then I just started to see the number of times these things, these posts, these articles are being read, and the number of times that they are being shared. Now, I fully understand what it takes to share something. Yeah, I mean, in most cases, it's pretty easy. You press a couple of buttons and you shared it. But people do not, as easy as it is, they just don't share anything and everything. I mean, it has to be something that they truly enjoy, and sharing is a way of recommending it. And I'm blown away by the number of times my articles and posts have been shared. I am humbled, truly humbled by all that, and I thank each and every one of you out there for that. And I'm just glad that my message is resonating with all of you, in that it makes sense, and that it's a logical point. And you know, hey, look, if at any point I don't feel like I'm having fun, or I don't feel like I'm really contributing anything anymore, I'll let you know. But I do have a goal here that I will keep doing what I'm doing until everybody agrees with me on a macro level. Now, I don't expect everybody to agree with me on a micro level, because that's an impossibility. But everybody can agree with me on the macro level, and I will keep doing it until everybody does. So maybe that won't happen within my lifetime, but I won't die until everybody agrees with me on a macro level. So I can be here like an elf, 238 years old, and I'm still on the radio, or whatever radio is going to be like 238 years from now. And I'll still be, me at you, talking to you on whatever the radio is at that time, telling you with all the logic and the reason, and of course having a lifetime of experience of over 200 years, I know I'll be even more right then than I am now. And I hope to God I do not have a Southern accent in 200 years. By the way, because we do things a little bit on the lighter side on Fridays, I've always known this to be a little bit true. But now it is official. I guess they've done some testing, and they've done some whatever, and some people have come out and said, yeah, it's kind of true. You know those claw machines, those claw games, you put in 50 cents or $1 in some cases, and you try to, and you maneuver the claw around, and then you drop the claw over usually a stuffed animal or product, or sometimes it's other stuff. And you try to pick it up and have it go over to the where it can drop into the bin where you can reach in and get it. This is from the Daily Mail. It's official. Claw machines are rigged. There's a video showing grabbing strength is tweaked depending on how much money has been paid in. Now, I mean, I kind of knew that everybody. I would think that most people who've played those stupid things realize that they're slightly rigged. Because how else is it that you grab something right where you're supposed to grab it, and the claw can't pick it? I mean, it's sitting right on. There's nothing holding it in. No other stuffed animal, no other product is holding what you grabbed in or down. And you set that claw right on top of it, and it nearly grabs the entire thing. You know, like a teddy bear or something. It nearly grabs the entire teddy bear, and yet it can't pick it up. And you're sitting there scratching your head thinking, what the? Well, this is why. A Washington-based writer studied instruction manuals of claw machines. Now, Phil Edwards for Vox.com found that many of them are rigged for profit. Operators change the strength of the claw to reduce chances of winning. This makes the game down to mostly luck rather than skill. So you're only going to win when it's kind of like the slot machine, when it's your time to win. There's no skill involved in these things. Now, most people have played these or at least seen them. A claw machine at an arcade or in places like, Walmart, they're all over the place. In, the grocery stores, at the entrances or exits at grocery stores. And one of the things that people, they look at is, it's only 50 cents, it's a couple of quarters, stick it in there, and you try it once or twice, and you're on your way. And most of the time, most people don't walk away with any prizes. And they just think, well, no big deal. Now, I know some people think that it comes down to skill, but it doesn't, obviously. Some people think it comes down to skill as to whether they bag a cuddly toy. A video has revealed that's not the case, and most machines are actually rigged. Now, because you kind of thought that they were rigged, you would still play them anyway. But I got to tell you, now that I've actually, and I'll post it on the rodeccles.net so you can see this. But now that I've actually seen it with my own eyes, as Darth Vader would say, I'm not playing these things again. Look, this is the reason why I don't play any of the games on the midway at fairs and such, because they're rigged for you to lose. Now, don't get me wrong. The midway games, they're not cheating you, really. They're not. But when you rig this electronic device to change its claw strength, you're cheating people. You really are. Because now it's not about skill anymore. See, at least with the midway games at the fairs, they're rigged for you to lose, but at least there's still skill involved. You got the basketball game, for example. Now, it still takes skill to get that ball in the hoop and make the shot. The problem is that the hoops are smaller than official size. Now, it's not really cheating because it's still taking skill to do it. But I know that that's the reason why people don't seem to win as much or get the ball in the hoop as much, because the hoops are smaller, slightly smaller, and they're more bouncy. So when the ball hits the rim, it bounces more than on a regular official rim. And you just have to learn how to handle that type of rim. You have to be more skilled at it. And that's all there is to it. It's same with it's the same with the water cannon guns. And you can look at, from fair to fair, different operators, you can look at the water, where you have the water cannon, and you have to shoot the water into a hole and blow up a balloon in order to win, or a lighter, put up a light or something. And you can notice between different operators how big or small that hole is. Obviously, the smaller the hole, the less water you're going to get in there at a time. So it allows more people to be in competition and stay in the game, I guess. It is what it is, folks. But at least there's still skill involved. There isn't something rigged that prevents you from winning. When you get it in the hole, when you get the water in the hole, there's nothing preventing you from winning other than another contestant who got more water in the hole before you did. So that's it. But here, in these claw games, they're actually cheating you. Because you can have the skill, get that claw right over the item, as I said, but because the claw doesn't have any grip strength or closing strength, it's not going to pick up the item. And you could sit here and you could scratch your head and say, wow, okay. And you can put in another $1's worth and put it in the exact same spot, and then because you've hit the time frame or the amount of money, now you're going to win. That's cheating. And I think that should be illegal, but the video explains the operator of the machines can set how often they pay out, and the strength of the claw will be dictated by how much money has been put into the machine. Now, the revelations were made by Phil Edwards over at Vox, and anyone who has played a claw machine can relate to the experience of having the claw perfectly positioned only to see it weakly graze the prize before pulling back up. Now, it's not your imagination. Those claw machines are rigged. In the video, Mr. Edwards said he looked at the instruction guides for several claw games and found that some of them told operators how to adjust the claw strength to manage their profits. For example, if a prize costs $7 and it's 50 cents to play each time, and the operator wants a profit of 50%, the claw will only allow the player to win 1 out of every 21 games or tries. Now, this is randomized, though, so the winning game cannot be counted or worked out. So the machines can also taunt the player by lifting up the prize and then dropping it, making them think that they have almost won. And this can encourage players to try again because of the psychological impact of near wins. So in other words, the claw is just going to pick it up, have enough strength to pick it up, but then as it gets to the top, because it's not very strong, and you can, and you've seen it, if you've ever played the games, how the claw, how it drops. You know, it just drops on a particular thing. And then it just sort of nice and smoothly works its way back up, but then it slams into the roof or the ceiling or the socket that the claw comes out of. And that often shakes the prize loose. I mean, I've had that happen to me more than once, and I've gotten kind of really ticked off about that. Like, yeah, I got it, and it slams against the roof of the game, and it's, are you kidding me? The game just did that. I didn't do it. The game did that. Well, that's what they do. That's how they you know, the game operator makes their money, and you know, some people may say that that's fraud. And in actuality, yeah, I guess there is some bit of fraud that goes along with it. Yes, you can say it's kind of fraudulent. Now, the website Vending Times, however, says that Vox doesn't tell the whole story regarding the skill element. It added, for several years now, amusement industry leaders have been advocating strict self-policing policies, encouraging vendors to operate their equipment and redemption programs in strict adherence to the law. Oh yeah, so now we're going to have vending game police out there, making sure that the games are up to snuff. Well, look, folks, what I say, just don't play them. Just, I fully understand that, the person who owns the game, they have to make a profit in order to stay in business. I get it. But you know what? Then do something different. Use a different type of vending machine or something. I don't know. Just use a regular vending. You put in 2 quarters and you get a candy bar or a piece of bubble gum, whatever out. That's all. Do that. Speaking of which, there have been businesses that have been, you probably have seen or heard, there was a time when there were people out there hawking their different, ways of making money, and they would glamorize everything and not really tell you the full hard story about what it's going to take to make money. And one of those was gumball machines. Anybody remember those? The gumball machines. All you got to do is put a gumball machine in this location, and each gumball machine was like hundreds of dollars. And the reality is none of them should have cost that much, because they didn't cost that much to build, but they were very much overpriced. But, you could go to like places like Sam's Club and BJ's, and you could buy, for relatively cheap, the items that go into the gumball machine, the gum, the candy, that type of thing. But what they failed to tell you, and I know that there were some lawsuits that were issued against some of these companies. All you got to do is spend $625 on this gumball machine, and you're going to make your money back lickety-split. You just put this gumball machine in a high traffic location like this one, and you'll make your money. But what they fail to tell you is that when you put it in a location, either you're going to pay rent, unless you own the store or what have you. You got to pay rent for the floor space that you're using, or you got to share the profits in the machine. So every time, you got to pay a commission. So let me tell you, some of those small business owners that let you put the gumball machine in there, they're there. They're standing over you when you're counting the money out of the machine, and they expect to get a check for, their percentage of it. Oh yeah, I'm getting 30% of this, right? So you got $100 in quarters, huh? Okay, I expect my check in a few days for $30. And they would try to tell you that there are ways that you can get around that by saying, well, you're going to donate a certain percentage to a charitable organization, and you can put that charity, on the gumball machine, and I'll get people to purchase 10% more product or what have you. And then you would go out and what they would tell how to people to do this, and then only send 10%. The problem is that a lot of these business owners or location owners, they found that out. Well, wait a minute. So I can get 30%, or if I give it to you for free, you're only going to donate 10%. Well, you better cough up the extra 20 or get your freaking gumball machine out of my business. And I'll just get my own gumball. And that a lot of people did that. They kicked out the gumball machine owner and went and bought their own gumball machine, because the same people that sold that gumball machine owner, new business owner, a gumball machine, was now contacting the business owner saying, hey, you know what? You don't need that guy. Keep 100% of the profits for yourself, but you just buy the $600 gumball machine. And that's what they did. And that's where a lot of the lawsuits came from, is because that kind of practice. See, that's kind of fraudulent to do that to people. It's the same thing with with this the rigged claw game, which is really kind of bad, because I used to really kind of like playing the claw game. I know it was dumb, it was stupid, it was it's only 50 cents or whatever, but yeah, it blows 30, not even 30 seconds of your time, but it was kind of fun at the time. But now that I know that there's no possible way for you to win it on a regular basis because they're rigged, and I used to think that I was really good, because you get these things, they're no bigger than the palm of your hand, little stupid things. You probably put in 50 cents and the item already cost only a quarter to the vendor, so of course they're going to give that out more often. Yeah, you're going to win. Once every 2 tries you win, because they're making 150%, but. And just so you know that now those games are rigged. And they might, depending on your location and your state and regulation and law and what have you, some of them might be violating law. So I don't know what you do about it. I don't think if you call the police, they're going to come out, rush out and, arrest the machine. That's not going to happen. Although I would like to see that. considering all the cop shootings that have been happening lately, I would like to see a cop get ticked off at one of these machines and shoot it. Shoot it dead. Of course, then you'd probably have some of these cop block idiots out there filming it and saying, look, aggressive behavior by cop shoots dead innocent machine. We know those machines are not innocent.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. Call InventHelp today.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-352-1609. That's 1-800-352-1609.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 52security.com. That's the number 52security.com. 52security.com. Go to 52security.com.
Hurt or injured in a car accident? It can be hard to take the proper legal action after a car accident, but waiting can cost you more. The law requires car accident victims to assert claims promptly. You could lose out by simply waiting. Call 800-709-4667 right now to see what your claim could be worth when handled by a skilled attorney. With a lawyer fighting and speaking up for you, you could be entitled to a big cash award. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Now it's fast and easy to connect with the legal help you need after your car accident. Call 800-709-4667. The call is free, but you need to act now before time runs out on your claim. You need a lawyer to fight for you, protect you, and get you the compensation you need and deserve. Time's wasting. Call 800-709-4667. That's 800-709-4667. Call now.
I considered suicide so I wouldn't put my family through all the pain.
Many of our warriors are returning home from the battlefield, only to face a new war as they struggle with devastating injuries. At Wounded Warrior Project, we understand. We're there to help.
Even though you think you're broken, you're not. It's the physical and the emotional healing that Wounded Warrior Project provides.
With a gift of just $19 a month, you can join Wounded Warrior Project. You'll help provide critically needed programs and services that rebuild lives.
Beautiful. There you go, buddy.
The ongoing needs of our wounded and their families will continue for many years to come. Now is the time to show your support. Call now or go online with your gift of just $19 a month and we'll send you this Wounded Warrior Project blanket.
It made me feel that there's people out there that care about us.
After this event, we can finally maybe start to heal as a family and move forward.
We need your help. The families are hurting.
For many of our wounded heroes, the greatest casualty is being forgotten. That's why your gift of just $19 a month is so important. Please call or go online right now.
You shouldn't have to pay to talk to the people closest to you, or the people who used to be. That's why Umbrella Wireless is proud to announce the new Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Now you'll get unlimited calls to your best buddy, your mom, or Cindy, once she realizes that you're seriously meant for each other and should stop screening your calls. Now the 30 minutes of agonizing silence where you're both afraid to hang up may drain your battery, but it won't drain your wallet. And you'll get unlimited calls just to check if she still cares enough to pick up. with no extra charges. With the Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan, your phone will automatically answer calls from your ex, because maybe she finally realizes that you're the only one for her and wants to get coffee sometime. Now, after lonely nights of looking at pictures of the road trip you took together when everything was great, your misspelled texts are absolutely free. The only thing you have to pay for is the booze. The Friends, Family, and Recent Ex-Girlfriend plan. Because she wants you back. She just doesn't know it yet.
You're listening to The Rod Eccles Show.
And we are back. Hey, this is from the WashingtonTimes.com. Excuse me, actor Jean-Luc, well, it's not actor Jean-Luc Picard, but Captain Jean-Luc Picard, a.k.a. Patrick Stewart. Sir Patrick Stewart, by the way. Yes, he was knighted not too long ago by the Queen, is backing the Christian bakers in the gay cake debate, saying he supports their right to refuse to write a message on a cake that violates their beliefs. Now, understand that Patrick Stewart is very good friends with Ian McKellen, Gandalf to many of you, Magneto to some of you in the original X-Men movies. He is openly gay. He and Patrick go back a long way, I guess. As far as knowing each other, they're actually really friends in real life. But so it's not that. And Patrick Stewart is of the Hollywood mindset when it comes to supposed gay rights, but he also backs people. Well, if people have the right to be gay and support gay, then people should also have the right to not be gay and not support gay. So this is happening in England, of course, but it has ramifications here because it's the same thing. Now, the owners of Asher's Bakery in Northern Ireland were found guilty of discrimination last month after refusing to make a cake with the words "support gay marriage" above a picture of Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street. Now, I know there are a lot of people who say, well, yeah, Bert and Ernie, they're gay. Bert and Ernie were always meant to be. No, that is BS. Well, maybe it's true now, but long ago it was not the case when I was because they had separate bedrooms. They were not, they were just roommates, much like The Odd Couple. That's what they were based on. We were told back then. But Mr. Stewart says, I found myself on the side of the bakers. He said yesterday at BBC's Newsnight, I would support their rights to say, no, this is personally offensive to my beliefs. I will not do it. And it was not because it was a gay couple that they objected. It was not because they were celebrating some sort of marriage or an agreement between them, Stewart said. It was the actual words on the cake they objected to because they found the words offensive. Now, again, the words on the cake were support gay marriage. Well, maybe they didn't support gay marriage, and they didn't want to be seen as being supportive of gay marriage, which is their right not to be supportive of gay marriage. I don't know why we have to have this whole thing where people you have to like gay marriage and you have to do this and you have really why. It's you're allowed to have your own beliefs, plain and simple. I don't have a problem with it. People say, well, what about people not liking blacks, Rod? What about that? Huh? And they always think that they have me backed up into a corner when they say that. What about civil rights, Rod? Oh, yeah. Do you agree with that or not? You probably don't, huh? And I just look at him and say, look, I'd rather know that a person doesn't like me for the color of my skin because I don't want to give them my hard-earned money. Why would I want to do that? Because they're probably going to turn around and take my money, the profit from my money, and use it against me by supporting some organization that doesn't like me. They have a right to do that. Why would I want to force somebody into taking my hard-earned money? Why would I want to do that? Well, because what if they're the only ones in town? Well, then I'll go to the next town, for crying out loud. What is this with being lazy? You do not have a right to expect anybody to sell you something. I'm sorry, you don't. Come on now. Let's just flip it a little bit. And I have done this often, and I look at people and say, okay, fine. If you want to force that Christian baker to make a gay wedding cake, fine. Are you going to do the same thing and force that black baker over there to make a cake for the KKK? Well, no, Rod, because that's offensive. Really? Why? Well, simply, the KKK have their beliefs. No different from gays having their beliefs. So why is it okay for you to force somebody to go against their beliefs in one aspect, but not against it in another? You're a hypocrite. Plain and simple. I'm pretty consistent. You don't make the black baker you don't force the black baker to bake a KKK cake. You don't force the Christian baker to make a gay wedding cake. Plain and simple. I'm pretty consistent across the board on that one. You get what you get. And if they're the only baker in town, well, I guess you better get in your car or get on the internet and order a cake from somebody who's more than happy to give work with you. There's plenty of business owners out there that think like you do. So find them and give your money to them. That seems to be the wise and logical choice in my book. You don't need laws forcing people to do that. And speaking of that, here's on the same veins, WND.com, the untold story of transgenderism. Now, I mentioned this last night, and I know that this whole Bruce Caitlyn Jenner thing is still out there. And, I don't want to sound offensive to anyone, but it's going to anyway. And here's the story behind it. The idea began with well-known sexual perversion advocate Alfred Kinsey. Everybody remembers the Kinsey scale, contending that people are sexual from birth. Now, he used experiments on babies during World War II. Now, his legacy stands largely unchallenged today by the American Medical Association, despite his advocacy of bestiality, pedophilia, sadomasochism, and incest. I bet people didn't know about that as they glorify Al Kinsey. It's kind of like Margaret Sanger of Planned Parenthood origination fame. People say, oh, yeah, she was a wonderful person. Do you know the reason why she started Planned Parenthood? Well, no. And then you tell them why, and they're like, no, that's not true. Yeah, it is. Go look it up. And Kinsey was a sexual deviant. He was. The man was sick in the head. In my book, when it comes to this kind of stuff. Now, Kinsey has given the sexual revolutionists their license to sexually pervert our culture, said Judith Reisman, author of Kinsey, Crimes and Consequences and director of the Liberty School for Child Protection. Now, in an interview, oh my goodness, I thought I was going to sneeze there, but I didn't. I'm sorry, folks. In an interview, we have a sexual revolution brought about by sexual revolutionaries, as Judith Reisman gave an interview with WND. Now, Walt Heyer, author of Paper Genders and Gender Lies and Suicide, tells a secret that the medical journals are not telling and that the news media today, lamestream media, is largely ignoring in glorifying sexual reassignment and transsexualism. Now, following Kinsey and his understudy, Harry Benjamin, Dr. John Money took up the sexual revolutionary mantle. In 1967, he was asked by a set of broken-hearted parents to simply repair a botched circumcision on their baby, who happened to be a twin. Now, Money convinced the trusting and distraught couple to raise the boy as a girl due to his damaged gender. Now, he removed David's genitalia, and David was raised as Brenda. Now, I actually saw this documentary on Netflix, and let me tell you something, folks. It was heart-wrenching. It was unbelievable. It was a crime against these twin boys like you cannot believe. And yet it was done in modern times by modern doctors in this country. Now, glowing medical journal reports that followed and are still cited today were nothing more than the medical industry circling their own wagons. By age 12, David was severely depressed, Brenda. By 14, his parents told him about the surgery, and he begged to be made whole again. He underwent yet another surgery to try to reverse the damage done to him, but by Dr. Money and his Keynesian colleagues, but continued to be haunted by it all. It was later reported that Dr. Money had sexually molested both of the kids, both of the twin boys, during exam procedures, and he forced them to have incestuous sexual activities with one another at the tender age of 7. Now, ultimately, both brothers committed suicide within months of one another. Because you had a bunch of perverted freaks who were trying to say that even though this is against nature itself, well, let's leave God out of the picture for a second. This is against nature itself, but it's okay. It is deviancy at its worst, folks. This is why I am not going to say that Bruce Caitlyn Jenner is brave and is a hero. The man needs mental help. Plain and simple. We've seen it over and over and over. Look, you are born with an innate sense of who you are sexually. Yes. And I know you get some of these people that say, well, you know, I was born a girl, but and I was just reading something today about transgenders serving in the military. And how difficult that is for this girl who's now a quote unquote a man that has to take these injections on a weekly basis in order to get the proper hormones. So in other words, she's not a man. You know, she can bulk up all she wants to taking steroids. Women can do that too, even those who don't, chop off their breasts. But and you can even look at her. I'm not even going to call him him. You can look at her from a profile point of view and say, boy, she's really kind of feminine looking for a guy, huh? Well, it's because he's not a he, he's a she. And no matter what you do on the outside, your DNA and on the inside still says you're female. And you can go ahead and, you can be as bulked up. Yeah, you can be stronger than the average guy, but you're still going to be innately not as strong as a man. Because you're not. You're missing, there's a lot of stuff about the human body and the human being and the DNA process that we just do not know. So there's a bunch of stuff that we're missing when we're trying to fool around with this stuff. So I am not going to be supportive of Bruce Caitlyn Jenner for fostering this false notion that now he's going to be something so totally... Why the hell would you want to be a woman? I'm sorry, but, I love women to death. Love them. But being a guy, I don't know why you'd want to be a woman. I don't get it. Why would you want to be somebody, quote unquote, weaker? In all kinds of societies. I mean, it's just the nature of who we are. Why would you want to go down that road and be something that you're not? Just so you can try to placate in your own sick, twisted, demented mind that you're something that you're not, so you can pretend for a little while. And then after a while, you're going to realize, I can't believe I just did that to myself. Now, through this tragedy, this isn't the only story of its kind. Dr. Paul McHugh, a former psychiatrist and chief at Johns Hopkins Hospital and author of Try to Remember, Psychiatry's class over meaning, memory, and mind, says that the heart of the problem is confusion over the nature of the transgendered. He cites a 2011 study at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden that followed 324 people for up to 30 years who had sex reassignment surgery. The study showed that about 10 years after the surgery, transgendered people began to have increased mental difficulties as they progressed through life. Their suicide mortality rose almost 20 times above the comparable non-transgender population. So McHugh points to the data as evidence that the high suicide rate trumps the typical surgery prescription propaganda by many as the answer to gender confusion. Sorry, folks. I know Bruce Jenner is 65. But frankly, looking at these numbers and looking at these studies, he might not make it to 75. Just saying. And that is such a bad thing. And this is what we want to foist on the American people, and to other. This is what we want to foist on young Americans who might be confused or having some mental difficulty. Oh yeah, just change your sexual identity on the outside, and everything will be fine. You'll be so sweet. You'll be beautiful. You'll look like Caitlyn. Sorry, folks, that's not the way it goes. Hey, Apple. Apple is, by the way, did you know that Baltimore is now being flooded with narcotics? Because, you know, the police have kind of stood down a little bit in Baltimore, but it's not that they're being flooded by narcotics, you know, the drug problem, because of the police standing down. But the problem is that they're finding out that these drugs that are flooding the streets of Baltimore are the drugs that were looted in those drugstores like CVS during the Baltimore riots. Just thank you, Democrats. So you wanted to give them room to destroy, and they're continuing to destroy their own city. Just saying on that one. This is from Newsmax as well. New Apple tax rules could change the game for media companies. Now, I was reading this and I'm thinking, I didn't realize that there was a so-called Apple tax. You know, if you have an app or something, you know, the revenue that is generated, you got to pay Apple 30% of that revenue. 30%! Apple isn't doing a damn thing to earn it, but, you know, it's on our platform. Yeah, big freaking hairy deal, 30%. But now they're changing their tune because, you know, they're starting to offer their own systems or apps in Apple, and to have, and well, they're not paying themselves a 30% fee, so they can't continue to charge everybody else that same high rate because they could get sued for it and be in violation of certain laws and regulations. You know, Apple is currently charging app publishers a 30% cut of all in-app revenues. That's similar to what Google is charging on its Play Store, with one key difference. Apple is also requiring publishers to apply the same fee to all subscription signups initiated through the app. Now, this has long been a point of discontent for media companies. Now, you want to talk about being just a little bit greedy, if there is such a thing as being greedy, and all you freaky, wonderful leftist liberals love Apple. Why? Looks like to me that Apple's being a little bit greedy here. trying to take revenue that doesn't even come from their well, indirectly, I guess it does, but directly does not come from their app store. Now, it has basically been a point of discontent for media companies and arguably complicated more subscriptions. For example, Netflix offers no in-app subscriptions at all via its mobile iOS app. Customers have instead visited the Netflix website in their browser to sign up and then go back to the app to start using the service. And I have Netflix on my phone, and I didn't notice where I could sign up for Netflix through the app, but it is what it is. So they're going to be dropping the Apple tax simply because now they're coming out with their own stuff, and they need to appear to be fair. They need to appear to be fair, or else they're going to get trumped and throttled by a bunch of people over in Washington D.C. And that's probably the basis of unfairness is when you start dealing with people in D.C. Because they don't know how to be fair, actually, over in D.C. They don't care to be fair. It's just their way or the highway, which I don't think is actually very fair at all. But, it is what it is. Richmond resolution. This is from San Francisco, CBSLocal.com, from the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, this was kind of funny. Richmond resolution on space-based weaponry prompts flood of calls to police from targeted individuals. Yes. Richmond is in the San Francisco Bay Area, so Richmond police have been inundated with calls for help from people who feel under attack from space-based weaponry because of a city council's resolution passed last month, according to Mayor Tom Butt, B-U-T-T. I can't make this stuff up, folks. Now, Councilwoman Jovanka Beckles introduced the Richmond resolution in support of a 2001 bill introduced by then Representative Dennis Kucinich of Ohio in an effort to ensure that Richmond residents would not be targets of space-based weaponry. It's imperative that Richmond adopt this resolution in an effort to stand in solidarity with residents who claim to be under assault from space-based weapons that should be outlawed by the Space Preservation Act, Beckles said. Now, Kucinich's resolution never passed, but versions of it referred to alleged technologies, including chemtrails, particle beams, electromagnetic radiation, plasmas, extremely low frequency or ultra high frequency energy radiation, and mind control technology. I kid you not. So you're going to be safe if you go out to Richmond, California, folks. Well, we have come to the end of this broadcast week as well as broadcast show. We'll be back here on Monday, folks, so have a great weekend. Enjoy your freedom while you got it. I'm Rod Eccles. This is the Rod Eccles Show. I'm out.